Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're back again with our second live stream for Snyk Learn OWASP Top 10. And again, we've come up with two interesting vulnerabilities, insecure design and injection. And we are not alone. We both are not alone. We have our friend Patch with us. So,
Hey.
yesterday when we joined, we had a really good turnout of people listening to the sessions, and I hope that was useful. Today we are going to share some input, uh, but we would want your inputs as well, where we want it to be more interactive. At a time, either Sonia or I would be speaking about different sections, so we would request you to ask as many questions as you have, or share your thought process, because we are sharing these vulnerabilities from our experiences, but we would want you to be also engaged and share your inputs. What kind of experience you have with these vulnerabilities, what kind of different things that you found with insecure design or injection, or you can actually share the feedback from yesterday's session as well, because we want these sessions to be more informative for you, that you get some information out of it. And I hope that you got the chance to look at Snyk Learn as well. So today's session, we would start off with talking about what Snyk Learn is all about, because
Vandana, again, we need to introduce ourselves. Again,
oh
we're
yes.
so in a rush. Let's introduce ourselves. Vandana, go on.
Oh yes, oh yes. So so this is what yesterday Sonia and I were discussing, that we are so excited about these things that we forget that we need to introduce ourselves. So Sonia, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. So, hey everyone, I'm Sonia. I'm a senior security advocate at Snyk, talking about security all day and sharing and spreading love around security. Yeah, so happy to be here today and yeah, continue the whole week introducing all the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities and learn more with everyone. Vandana, over to you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am a security advocate at Snyk, currently residing in Bangalore, and we are in different parts of the world talking about OWASP Top 10. We're showing our love for security and trying to share what we know and what we have learned in the past years. And the best part is that Snyk Learn is so much interactive that we feel that everybody should get to know about it, get to learn from it. And this is very friendly, user friendly. Let's in simple words. So while we are doing that, let's start even not with Sneak Learn. How about we start off with Big Fix? Because we
Sure.
are doing this in the Big Fix months. Let's
Yes,
talk about that.
let's talk about the Big Fix. So the Big Fix is the big event that we're doing every year at Sneak. So it started last week on February 14th until March 14th. What is the Big Fix? So the Big Fix is a month-long fix-a-thon. I'm just going to zoom a little bit more so you can better see a little bit better, where you can win prizes for fixing vulnerabilities. How amazing is that? So you can fix vulnerabilities in open and closed source software projects while making a positive impact. So how does it work? You only need to register. So if you click get started, you will register here, you submit, and then you will get an email and you can start the registration and start fixing. So yeah, sign up and start fixing. This is really easy. And you might ask, Vandana, where are you getting from actually fixing those? Well, that's a great question, because actually when you fix vulnerabilities, you will get swag and prizes. You need to be as excited as us. Look at this limited t-shirt, edition t-shirt that you can get when you fix at least one vulnerability. And also, there's a leaderboard. That's the thing. So that's the leaderboard. And as you can see, our goal this year is to fix at least 200,000 fixes. We're already at we've crossed the 100,000 mark, which is amazing. So if you manage to get the first place, you'll get the VR headset. Second place, wireless speaker. Third place, Arduino starter kit. That is really exciting. Yes, yes, you're right. So get really excited, like fixing vulnerabilities and get to the top of the leaderboard. Well, actually, the top of the leaderboard is it's quite competitive. So you need to you need to fix a lot of vulnerabilities to get there. Yeah, so this is the Big Fix, the event, and also we're doing a lot of live streams like we're doing today, but also on the 28th of February we're doing a live stream schedule, 24-hour live stream covering APJ, MA, and MR with a lot of amazing speakers and great topics. So yeah, if you can just join us. If you can't join us, the good news is this session will be recorded and posted on our channel, on our YouTube channel. So if you look at for Snyk, we do host like a lot of videos and interesting content. There's like a lot of webinars. All the OWASP top 10 series that we're doing this week will also be recorded and hosted here. So yeah, but be there on 28th February. It's going to be interesting. So you can actually interact with our speakers and ask questions. What do you think, Vandana?
I agree with you, and especially the most important aspect is that we would be running the 24 hours live stream in APJ, EMEA, and MR, which means I would be running the APJ, Sonia would be part of EMEA, and then we have friends. Oh, yeah, Brian, and you are running, and then we have Brian Clark and Eric Smalling. So we have two Brians in the team, and both are running EMEA and Amir. And trust me, it's going to be totally amazing because I have been part of the last year's one where so many wonderful discussions happen. So we're looking forward to discussion from you as well. There are different topics which have been submitted by different speakers. There are certain topics which might interest you or which you want to take it forward. We would love to hear from you as well on these topics. Interestingly, our goal is not just to fix or engage you in these live stream, but to work together to make the whole world secure and talk about developer first security. So let's work towards that. It's just been a week, like we started on Valentine's Day. We showed our love for fixing the bugs, and now we are just over a week and we have crossed 100,000 mark. And we are targeting 200,000. We might be able to cross 300,000. How cool that would be. So let's start fixing the bugs. And why we started showing our love for it, because when we talk about internet, over 80 to 90% of the code that we have on the internet is all open source. Now, when we have so much love for using open source, we need to show love and fixing the security bugs as well. Or what will happen? We will see the issues like Log4j, the Apache issues that we saw, or we would be using certain outdated versions which we don't want to do it. And that's why we thought, let's go ahead and talk about the top 10 risks that are there in the industry. And especially when Snyk has a beautiful place where we can love and learn about these OWASP top 10. So let's go get straight into it about insecure design. Over to you,
Yeah.
Sonia.
First, let's introduce the platform because maybe the audience is not familiar with Snyk Learn. So Snyk Learn
That's
is
right.
our interactive lessons platform. So it's a free platform. You can start learning by just creating an account, and then you have access to a lot of lessons. So if you go on learn.snyk.io, you'll navigate to this page, and if you click on lessons, you can see there's a lot of lesson covered covering a few ecosystems, so C++, JavaScript, Python, PHP, C#, Java, Go, Kubernetes. And the good news is we're actually feeding the website quite often, so we do add a lot of lessons. So as we mentioned, we're going to go through, and we're going through the learning path OWASP top 10 this week, and also the which I didn't show this yesterday, the learning progress. So if you create an account, you can actually see which lessons you are currently doing, what are the number of lessons that you have by ecosystem, the to-do in progress completed. So you have this dashboard just to also have in parallel of your learning progress, which is quite cool, actually. And you also have those like recommended for you. It looks like Netflix of learning, actually. How cool is that? Like the next lesson you should learn.
I like the thing, Netflix of learning. Yeah, really. Like learn anything in any language. Like there's no bar for it. I
Yeah.
especially love the way it's crafted for, like, I love Python. So there are specific lessons for Python. You love JavaScript. So there are different lessons for that. Like we don't need to bound ourselves in just certain lessons for certain language. Now you can learn anything and everything. And also you can suggest different aspects as well, different vulnerabilities which can be added. So we are open for the inputs as well from you. So that's why we say that we want you to be engaged in these sessions while we take you through this beautiful journey of learning OWASP top 10.
Sure. Oh, that's right. Netflix is not free. Snyk Learn is. That is true. Snyk Learn is free. Cool. Let's start with let's continue the learning path with OWASP top 10. So yesterday we did broken access control and we did the server-side request forgery. Today we're doing injection and insecure design. So let's have a look at insecure design. So what is insecure design? This is to protect your applications against insecure design. This is what this lesson is for. So let's have a look at the basics and what is insecure design. So this is a type of flow that can sit in the background of everything you do. This vulnerability relates to how you, as a developer, design your programs, architect solutions, and employ security practices, such as threat modeling. And we'll come back to what is threat modeling, just to give you a little bit more context around that. So meaning that insecure design can present itself in a wide variety of ways. And we'll cover, in this specific lesson, we'll cover one scenario, but obviously there's a few more scenarios that are included in insecure design. So failing to do so can lead to flows that threaten your organizational security. It can compromise sensitive data. It can grant privileges to individuals who can abuse them, and more. So this is coming in number 4 on the OWASP top 10. And if we have a look at the OWASP top 10, as you can see, this is new, actually. It wasn't here at the previous top 10 list in 2017. So usually OWASP will release this list every 3 to 4 years. So the previous one was in 2017. The latest one was released in 2021. As you can see, there's a few new entries in this list. So going back to this, it's coming at number 4 on the OWASP top 10 list, and it's certainly something you should account for in your everyday development. So about this lesson, we'll all learn today what is meant by insecure design and some tips on how you can model your programs to protect against flows in logic. So we'll begin by investigating a simple app which has a permission problem, discussing why it's a problem, and exploring how it could be remediated. So here Patch is telling us a fun fact: plan, plan, plan. Why is that? Because on average, vulnerabilities related to insecure design rank at 6.8 on the CVSS scale, which is quite concerning, whereas the average across all vulnerabilities categories is around 6.5. So shifting security all the way left to design phase pays. So let's see insecure design in action. So it is important to note that this category of vulnerability doesn't have any single presentation. In that case, we're going to see a specific scenario. So insecure design isn't so much a single mistake that you can make, like some vulnerabilities, so much as it's general inaction to think about how you design your applications. So what is the scenario? We recently acquired a castle in Scotland. How amazing is that? And while 16th century castles are cool, renovating a castle to have modern tech is no small task. So we did employ a close circle of friends with a specific set of skills who can help. So there are electrician, plumber, developers, cool, a lot of people working for us. And as we employ more and more people, however, realize that we can't delegate to everyone on our own and enjoy living in a castle at the same time. So we ask our developer friend to build an application to handle the management of workers. So we can think of this application like a HR application, for example. So we don't have to work as hard keeping track of everything. So so the developer came back with a bare bone program which lets us delegate to our workers. We're conscious that people are invading our castle and taking control. The developers created 3 roles. The first one, grunt, will read orders and submit time cards. The second one, developer, which can add and remove employees and edit code. And the third one, the castle leader, which is basically Patch or us, which is a super admin, has admin access. So the first version of the program looks ugly and it's littered with bugs. But the developer blames, but actually blaming us for being understaffed. Okay. Grumpy employee here. So we hire a new developer, which is called Sir Snyk, who promised to improve the efficiency of development tenfold. Great. So our developer friend thinks this sounds great and adds him into the database as developers. So they're having the same permissions, as you can see. Our friend developer has the developer role, and the Snyk also has the developer role. So same permissions. We need to keep this in mind because this is really important. So everything's going great and the work is much more efficient. And now instead of managing everyone, you can sit on one of your towers admiring the view, and this is how it looks like, while your new program does everything for you. So somebody's knocking at our door. It's our developer friend. They explain that we no longer own the castle because Sir Snyk removed us as a leader and made themselves the castle leader, removing all of our access to our own systems. What did happen? Because this was our castle. So let's see the scenario. Here is like Patch as a king. How cool is this? Love that. So we're sitting at the top of our castle. Everything is great, and we start hiring trustworthy people, right? So here we have a few developers. Let's see what happened next. So we're having a lot more work actually to work on this application, and fortunately, not all of them are trustworthy. You can see all this like mean developers. Yet their permissions are very broad. So as we can see, as the king, we have the super admin permissions. So we can add, remove people within this application, which is the same as the developer. They also have this kind of permissions. They can add and remove. They have like a super admin permissions. And then there's the other role, which is grunt, and they don't have any permissions. And ultimately, who's the king now? Because they had the same level of permissions, they actually remove us as the the owner of the castle, and now we're just like the grunts with no permissions at all. So this app was fully designed. What happened under the hood? So here we've seen that our developer friend made a mistake when they've actually created the role and the organization changes. So how was Sir Snyk able to reach the same level as us? Well, because the permissions, if we're checking the JSON file with all the permissions, we can see that our developer friend may have had permissions set something similar to this initially. So we have the electrician, the plumber, then we have our developer friend and us. And you can see that's like a developer role and a castle leader role. Okay. Then we start adding people. And in that case, we've added the new one, Sir Snyk All, with the same role, developer, which has the same set of permission structure as our good friend, developer, and also us. So let's have a look at what it could look like. And by the way, this lesson is in JavaScript. You can actually change it here using the dropdown if you want to. If you're more familiar with Python, you can change it, and the piece of code will change to Python. So here we can see that Sir Snyk All would have had access to this branch of code in the management program, allowing them to remove any worker that they so choose. So here we're requiring the permission.json. This is where we'll define all the permissions, the one that I've just showed you here. Here we have a function to remove the employee. So it's basically to check for a specific role with this one that we're actually saving into this constant. And here we're checking permissions. And this is where it actually goes wrong. We can see that the role, the castle leader, is exactly the same as the role developer. And there's a SQL query, which is delete from all the employees this specific ID. So if we have the ID of the castle leader here, this developer can potentially remove us from this application, which is not great because they're not supposed to do this within their range of permissions. So what is the impact of insecure design? So in this specific example, the impact was that a user was able to cause a lot of damage because the proper permissions weren't set for them. Or more specifically, a system of incremental permissions wasn't used. And we'll come back to role-based access control in a second. So here the flow in logic was that the developer friend assumed that any other developers needed the same level of permissions as them. And so when they were added to the system to work, they were able to do more than they were required. So insecure design can be how you position servers in your network, the order of trust you put on your systems, the protections you include for other vulnerabilities, included outdated practices such as saving password in plain text, don't do this, and more. As such, this example is a very specific scenario in that case, but we will see a few other scenarios when we come to threat modeling. But they do showcase how lapses in judgment and that can lead to insecure systems as well. And it isn't always the software's fault. So how would you mitigate this? Because this is the most important. Like we actually managed to spot the vulnerability. Let's mitigate and remediate that. So in the above example, your friend could have prevented this from this person from causing so much damage if they had implemented fine-tuned permissions in their application. What that means? So that means that giving users permission to do specific things and no more. So here you can see, for example, the electrician, their role, they can receive order and they can submit the time card. Same for the plumber. What about the developer friend? He can receive order, he can change permissions, he can edit code, he can add employee, he can remove employee. What about the new developer? You actually put specific roles, specific permissions within the role. So in that case, for Snyk, for the Snyk all, you won't put, for example, add or remove employee. You will only put edit code in that case. Then the ability of Sir Snyk Oil to cause operational damage could have been greatly severed. Note that this doesn't guarantee that it couldn't have caused damage some other way. It's important to employ general secure development practices. So let's see a few mitigation. First, use secure development procedures in application development. This is to secure your software development life cycle. So this could include things like read more about vulnerabilities that could affect you, seek advice from security professionals. Ideally, if you have a security team, just approach them and ask questions. But also you could also outsource if necessary. Also, you can go through Snyk and learn more about those security vulnerabilities. And all of those things are much cheaper than paying a ransom. So ransom, for those of you who are not familiar with this term, is basically when a hacker is encrypting your data and will ask for a ransom. And if you pay the ransom, usually it's in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, then it will give you the key to decrypt your data. So similarly, having a thorough documentation is important, can help prevent confusion and conflicting policies within your application. So that's the first one. Make sure to secure your software development lifecycle. The second thing is to test your code. Testing your code helps identify general bugs within your programs, which can include issues with security. So having a robust test suite can ensure you minimize silly bugs, which can put your application at risk. And when you think about testing, it's not only about testing your code base, it's also including security testing within this test suite. And third one, implement threat modeling. So threat modeling is to assess what's important to protect in your organization, your crown jewels, and the measures you need to take to protect it. So ensure you consistently account for things which can negatively impact your security. For example, using strict access control. IAM, identity and access management, is really important to define when you're doing during the design phase before implementing. Ensuring all of your teams in your organization who work on your application understand its structure and purpose, and also locking down critical infrastructure are all necessities. So let's have a look at here, threat modeling. So threat modeling, there's a cheat sheet on the OWASP cheat sheet series, which is giving you a little bit more information of what is threat modeling, but I'm just gonna zoom. Can I zoom in? Yeah. So basically, threat modeling is a structured approach of identifying and prioritizing potential threats to a system and determining the value that potential mitigation would have in reducing or neutralizing those threats. So you can there's a few ways to do so for threat modeling, and you can use several methodologies. And if you don't want to do this through defining your architecture on the whiteboard, you can also use the OWASP Threat Dragon. So this is an application that helps you map your application and see potentially what could go wrong within your application. Do they have? Yeah. So for example, you will use those patterns for process, for storing, for actors, the data flow, and the trust boundary. Those are all elements that are really important when you're doing threat modeling, just to create some scenarios and imagine how a hacker could potentially tamper with your application, what are the entry points, and how you could mitigate and remediate to those. So this is also a good tool to use from OWASP. It's the OWASP Threat Dragon. Also, if you're more familiar using frameworks, there's the SAM framework, which is the Software Assurance Maturity Model. And the model actually have, just gonna zoom in a little bit more here. Yeah, the model has 5 pillars, which is governance, design, implementation, verification, and operation. This is actually covering all of that is provided within your application to improve your software security posture. And as you can see, the second phase is design. This is after governance, and before implementation, that's the design phase. So if we have a look at the design phase, there's the threat assessment, which will include the threat modeling sessions. And depending on your maturity level, you can start by just identifying high level of threats for your organization and individual projects. And when you have a maturity level that is more advanced, you'll have proactive improvement of threat coverage throughout the organization. You have the security team working with you at the design phase. So that's if you like, if you want to use those kind of framework within your organization, and you don't know where to start, the SAM framework is actually a good starting point for that. Going back to the threat modeling cheat sheets, just wanted to show, yeah, so you can create an information flow diagram. As I said, using a whiteboard, this is just the simplest way to do so. So you can just draw the architecture of your application. And if you don't want to whiteboard your architecture, you can use the OWASP Threat Dragon. There's also other tools that you can use on that. So yeah, if you want to learn more about threat modeling and the different ways that you can apply it to your organization or your different features, I would invite you to have a look at this documentation. Cool. So here, what did we learn so far for the insecure design? What is insecure design? So insecure design is a type of flow that can sit in the background of everything that you do. This vulnerability relates to how you, as a developer, design your programs architect solutions, and employee security practices such as threat modeling, meaning that insecure design can present itself in a wide variety of ways. And is it part of OWASP? Yeah, it is part of the OWASP top 10. This is a new category. It's ranking at the fourth place. And failing to design properly can lead to flaws, as we've seen, that threaten your organizational security, compromising sensitive data, granting privilege to individuals who can abuse them. We've seen it with Patch, the King Patch, which actually wasn't the king anymore of the castle, and way more also vulnerabilities. So yeah, don't forget to secure your software development lifecycle. Test your code. You can also use the user case, having some security flavor of the user case. As a user, I would like this application to be like this, so you can also change with the security flavor, and implement threat modeling also. And if you don't know where to start, have a look at the OWASP documentation. This is a really great starting point to guide you on that. Yeah, that was insecure design. And now that we've seen insecure design, we're going to move on to injection. Over to you, Vandana.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I hope you actually enjoyed the different sections that we're talking about. But let me tell you one interesting bit. As much as you are enjoying, we are enjoying it together. Because this is something when we are sharing, we learn from each other. There's one interesting aspect that we can actually get insecure design. Like, if I have no idea if my that design is insecure, I can actually look at Sam, get an idea about it. I can look at threat modeling, threat dragon, and I can try and pivot around it. So that's very, very interesting, and all the information is available online about that. Now, coming to the injection. Injection has been like one of my favorites of all time. Since I know OWASP, injection has been there. Like, when I was a kid, injection was there. We've all grown up, injection is there. And as per a prediction, injection is going to be here. Especially if I come back here, the interesting bit would be like, why do we even care about these things? So what is injection? It's part of OWASP top 10. OWASP top 10 is top 10 risks when we talk about any application security risk, and even OWASP has renamed it itself to open worldwide application security, because it's not just about application which are web based, but mobile, IoT, and cloud. And when we talk about designs, it also includes about that. So when we say injection, injection is a vulnerability which can be in any form, could be in the form of SQL injection, could be in the form of XML injection, could be in the form of command, cross-site scripting, LDAP injection, or code injection. So today we would be covering majorly around SQL injection and code injection. Or I would say that I would love to give the code injection demo, because SQL injection, I think it's been one of the talked about vulnerability, like what it is, how it is. So here, what we need to do is we can just go ahead, go to learn.snyk.io, start the learning process, and we can select the language that we want to learn. Or what we can do is we can just search for injection flaws. So when we search for injection flaws, here we can see there are multiple injections that are there. For Java, there's code injection, SQL injection. For JavaScript, XPath injection. Again, for JavaScript, there's no SQL injection. So there are different kind of injections that are there. But what exactly, again, it is? So when an application take input from the user and without validating, process it and gives the user the result, or there are certain validations which are in place but the user is able to bypass those validations, that's called injection, in a very, very simple terms. Now let me tell you a story about injections. Like, I love telling stories, and we all love to hear about them. uh, and my son always would understand anything with the story. Or if you tell them not to do, they will always do. Like, we as attackers or hackers, we always love to do what we are not supposed to do. Or when somebody says don't do it, then we are like, we will do it. So this story is about my friend Sonia and I, because I can't take anyone's examples. I love taking these examples. So here, once upon a time, there was a small e-commerce company website that was run by our young entrepreneur named Sonia. Sonia, you are an entrepreneur in my story. So the website sold a variety of products, it, which was from security to whatnot, like small, small products which we love. And Sonia was very proud of her website, like we all are. I am, even though it's all open source. How frequently I run or I update, that's a thing to think about. So Sonia has put in so much effort in building this website and building this product. One day, a malicious attacker, I wouldn't say hacker because we all are hackers, named Vandana, discovered injection flaw in the website. And while we're trying to find this injection flaw, it was very simple in the search function. Like we were searching for injection and here on Snyk Learn. So Vandana was able to find this vulnerability in the website. So Vandana was able to get access to the customer's name by just creating the simple queries. Maybe select start from somewhere. Can we get these queries from anywhere? OWASP has a beautiful cheat sheet. Snyk has a beautiful cheat sheet around injections. And you can just get to know about that. There are, yes, actually, when we were talking about Snyk Learn sessions, we also have a lot of cheat sheets created by our wonderful friends at Snyk and our ambassadors. So do check them out. So now, when Vandana was able to access the customer's name, addresses, payment information, and what when I have those information, I can make any purchase. So I would love to purchase something from Sonia's website because she has really cool products. So I actually bought a bunch of products, and Sonia actually didn't know anything about it. Sonia was actually totally unaware about this suspicious activity which was happening, but she discovered it one day that something bad is happening. The customers started complaining, and she was devastated. So Sonia actually quickly actually ran towards Patch. And what Patch did, Patch actually helped her out getting to know about those vulnerabilities, that what exactly it is. So it was one of the flaws. And when she realized that I need to be very, very aware of these flaws, she started looking at the injection flaws. And what was that? So that was all about injection. Now, let me tell you something very interesting. I told you the story about Sonia and Vandana. Like we were able to figure out that there is this injection flaw. But what happens next? That's the part of the story that we're going to be talking about. And fun fact, who all are Star Trek fans? Like I am, trust me, I am. So did you know that according to Star Trek, SQL injection will still plague humanity 300 years from now? Like our kids to grandkids to whatnot, so many generations. So if memory serves, a 2019 Star Trek Discovery episode said that SQL injection when attacking a data store on one of the ship's shuttlecraft. They discovered this, and it's going to be there for a very, very long time. So think of this situations. Star Trek also talks about it. Now, in simple terms, SQL injection is nothing but when we don't validate the input and database process it. Now, when we talk about validation, validation doesn't need to be just the client side or server side. It has to be both. The role has to be played in both the sense. Now, here in this simple example, we have a username and password. Now, while we are using this username and password, uh, I am using my username, I'm using my password, and I'm able to log in. Perfect. But instead of using the username and password, I don't have I get to know Sonia's username, but I play around with some passwords. So instead of that, I would try to bypass. So I would say I don't know, or 1 equals to 1. Interestingly, 1 equals to 1 statement is always true, but I have the username here. So I have the username, which is user1 at startup.io, but I didn't know the password. When I tried using this password and I tried to log in, it worked. What it meant that there is a SQL injection that exists. There is an injection that exists, and we were able to bypass. Similarly, a friend of mine actually wanted to get the access to to her kid's result, but she was not able to find out. So what she did, she knows SQL queries, and she knows how to play around with it. So the funny enough part is that she tried to play around with the database, and by mistake she dropped some tables. So when you are able to drop the tables, what happens? And especially here, if we are able to drop the credentials table, what happens? There is no user that exists. Or you might be able to drop some tables where you don't need the passwords and you are just able to access it with just username, any username. Like, I would love that. I would love to get access to Sonia's account or Mika's account. Like, play around with that. I would love that. So here there is a classic example, code example, where there's a request parameter which comes directly from the input. Now here, what is the input? There is an email, there is a password. So there's a SQL query statement which is created by concatenated a hardcore SQL string with the input data. Now I am accepting email and a password. Do I have any validation here? No. So when there's no input validation, what happens? Oh, nothing. Just the username and password, and I can play around. Maybe I can pass any query. I can delete the tables, I can update the tables, I can do anything and everything. Now that's about SQL injection in like the most simple terms, but trust me, it's not simple as it. Like, we've had so much time invested on injection flaws, like where we had to think of, oh, can we time delay? Can we wait for it? Can we do this? Can we do that? So there are so many things. But for that, you need to look at cheat sheets. The impact can be as huge as wherein you would be able to delete the whole website. This has happened. There are stories about it, and there are issues that have been found. If I go back in history, like a few years back, there was a big flaw which was there. There was a big injection vulnerability which was found in Equifax breach, where a credit card report, which is like Equifax is a credit card reporting agency, which suffered a massive data breach that exposed a lot of sensitive information, which include name, email addresses, social security numbers, and other sensitive information. Now, when they were able to give that information, now that flaw was actually in Apache Strut vulnerability, which was a bit delayed in patching, and because of that, people were able to do the remote code execution. People were able to use SQL commands. People were able to use injection flaws, and they were able to exploit. Now, before going to SQL injection remediation, what I would want to do is I would want to share a little bit story about code injection, because this is something which is my favorite and which I always want to talk about. So, what is code injection? So, code injection is a type of an attack which happens using the malicious code into the application. It code injection could be using certain code parameters. Now, here the interesting bit was that in 2018, when we talked about when the organization started doing the research, they figured out that 5.66% of the vulnerabilities, they were actually categorized as code injection, and in 2015 that decreased to 0.77, which was rare, but then it still exists. People think it's just a sleeping fish, but trust me, when it hits hard. We are using APIs, we are using API endpoints, and they are increasing like anything. So let's take this scenario again, coming back to the story. I'm a developer, and this time I'm a developer. I am vulnerable. My website is vulnerable. So here, Sony is thinking like, I am just trying to kill her website. Trust me, I'm a developer. I am vulnerable this time. And Sony is the one who's going to be attacking. So here in this scene, I'm a developer. Like, I work 9 to 5 and it's a Friday evening. What happens Friday evening? I just want to log off as early as, and trust me, when we try to log off early, there's a big issue comes in. Trust me, on holidays, on Fridays, this is like the story. And I'm looking at my cup of tea, like it's evening, and I am looking at my cup of tea. And what happens next? I create a function and I push the code. Now, there is a trick in the code. I miss to validate. Now, when I miss to validate, what happens next? Here, I'm trying to run this on the website, on my Big Cop website. So, okay, I'm trying to put some information and see what happens. Oh, see, this is what I do. Here, there's an there's an order that has been placed with the name Edgar. Like, really? Just with the URL? Okay. Can I play something more? I'm just trying to put some double quotes, like my favorite ones, sometimes single quote, and it gave me some error. Try to give me the information which I'm not supposed to have. Do you realize that there is a file structure, folder structure that I'm not supposed to know, and I'm getting it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something around Linux, Unix, which is running in the background, which I should not know. It is on certain line number, which I'm getting. There is a JavaScript which is running in the background. Okay. Are there any vulnerabilities around it? So, which means when I played around just with double quotes because of this eval function, let's see if I can get further information. Here, what I'm trying to do is with this customer onboarding process, with this input parameter called name, I'm trying to get information about the process version. Should I be getting? No, 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 no. Well, should Sonia be getting? No, 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 no. Absolutely no. So here, what information? So it says, dear version this. Wow. Is there anything in the world I need? I know that there's some Linux, there's some JavaScript running, there's some version that I'm not supposed to know, and I have access to. So it looks like that I am able to do some kind of injection, but no, I need to do something more. Like, this is not something. I want more information. So if I want more than just process information, I might be able to get to know about the user list, about the admin list, about what services are running. Like, I am able to get anything and everything about that server. So here is just the sensitive information about the version. And on top of it, if I know that there is a particular version running on this server, what will I do? I will go to exploit.db, I will go to NVD database, I would Google it. I would find all the exploits available on the internet. And what I know now these days, as soon as there is a bug fix released, the very same day or the next day, there is an exploit available on exploit.db. So if that's there, what Sonia would like to do? Sonia would like to bring down my website. And as it's Friday, I am done. I've closed my laptop. I don't know what's happening. And now in the night, I'm getting calls from the office that there's something bad has happened and this big thing. So now here, let's look at the code. Here, if you look at this code, there is a request parameter which is directly stored without validation using the eval function. Now here, this name string is then injected into the eval function. So the name has some URL, which as an attacker, Sonia has put in the eval function, which is used. And then what happened next? This eval function is returned to the client. Now, anything that I ask or Sonia asks from me, we would be able to give it. Do I want that? No. So the code injection can actually lead to a lot of integrity flaws. Like, we don't want to give some server side information to the users. Like, I don't want any server side information to be leaked to the user, or any remote code execution. Like, third party who's don't want any information to be run on my website, or I don't want my user database to go there, or somebody is actually putting down my website. No. Is it common? Trust me, it's not common. Code injection is not very common, but then in any situation, if we have such functions which actually take the input from the user without validating, trust me, it can lead to any flaw. Now, what are the things that we can do? Let's talk about mitigation. Because when we talk about these scary things, it is okay to talk about these scary things, but we need to fix them as well, right? And occasionally we need to remember that we anybody on the internet can be tricked. Also, when we have a website on the internet, we can think of it as that it is already breached. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to make sure we are securing it. We are putting the right controls in place, because no one is 100% secure. We have to be so sure. Whatever kind of recommendations we have, whatever kind of measures that we try to put in when we talk about these flaws, and these flaws have been taken out by doing all the analysis and the information gathered from different organizations. Now, there's a fun fact. that researchers at University of Washington were able to generate synthetic DNA strand containing malicious code injection. Now, talk about this like bioinformatics, and they were able to do information, or they were able to do injection. Or there are cases, oh god forbid, nothing should happen, but there is a doctor who is doing the like the whole procedure on the patient, and there's an operation going on, and there's someone who's able to do remote code execution, which we do not want. So this injection flaws can happen in any ecosystem. What we need is the awareness. It is not just for a developer or a security person, for anyone who has the ecosystem, who has the control of the ecosystem, working in any of the domains. These are not domain specific. This can happen in airline, this can happen in healthcare, this can happen in financial ecosystem, it can happen anywhere. Now, what are the recommendations? Let's start talking about parameterized queries. We need to have a ecosystem where we set parameterized query, or a way of passing user input to the database in a safe manner. Or what will happen? These flaws will happen. Input validation and sanitization. Now, when we talk about validation and sanitization, it should happen at client side, should happen at a server side, and output encoding. Let's remember that. Because when we talk about injection, it covers XSS as well, which is cross-site scripting. Now, another interesting bit is using web application firewalls. Another would be to use stored procedures. When we are using these stored procedures, remember these are pre-compiled queries that we need to have to avoid these injections. But how do we even get to know? So Snyk has a wonderful open source system, and Snyk Advisor, which gives you the list of these open source issues which you can fix on early, especially when I talk about dependencies, libraries, third party code. But as much as our code is important, we need to look at the third party dependencies as well. And let's review these issues on a periodic basis. And that's why we talk about CI/CD, continuous integration, and continuous deployment of having these tool sets in the pipeline. And you can just sign up for snyk.io, and you can also fix these bugs in your own code. And that's why we started off with Big Figs. Again, like when we talk about these things, Big Fix comes into the picture. The whole story about it comes back to the Big Fix, my favorite one. And as Sonia mentioned in the beginning, let's start from home. Let's start from nowhere. Like sometimes I don't know anything, but I need to start from somewhere. So you need to start registering yourself. How do you register yourself? You can just go here, put in your name. Okay, I'll say Patch the dog, and put in your email address. Like I have so many email address. I would say Vandana.Verma. Oh my god, I am giving my email address. .infosec@gmail.com, or maybe your patch the dog at gmail.com. Submit, you will get an email, you would be onboarded, and you can integrate it with your GitHub accounts. But remember, do not integrate with your work account if it's not allowed. So be very, very sure about it, because these are some things which we want you to be secure. Like we want you to scan the vulnerabilities, we want you to fix them. But at the same time, what we really want is we want you to be very cautious when you're using your work accounts. Do not integrate till the time it's allowed. Now, let me come back to these things. Now, while we talk about SQL injection, while we talk about code injection, what we also want to do is we want to learn more about them. So there are certain cheat sheets, there are keep learning activities, there are certain more lessons that are there. So we've talked about SQL injection, we have talked about code injection, but what I want you to go back and do is go to lessons, search for injections or insecure design, because that's the session for today. And yesterday we talked about SSRF and broken access control. If you've not gone through, you can go back to both of them. It is going to be there on YouTube, Snyk YouTube, and you would be able to take a look at it. It's not like we're talking about it today and it's going to go away. No, it's going to be there. And similarly, you can go through each of these exercises, and they are language specific. So there are code snippets specific for language, JavaScript, Node.js, Java, or Python, maybe any other language. So you want to know about XML, external entity injection, just go through them and start understanding about them. And if you still face any concerns, me and Sonia, we're here for your whole week. And not just that, we are there on LinkedIn, we are there on Twitter. We are here to answer your queries, not just to talk about these bugs, but to help you out with Big Fix, with OWASP Top 10, with Snyk Learn. And if you want to know more about Snyk, we would love to help you out. Now, let me go ahead and show you something very, very interesting, or get my friend's screen on the screen. Right, here we are.
Yeah, just because you've actually mentioned it, Vandana, I want the audience to know about this amazing tool that we have at Snyk, which is the Snyk Advisor. So we're covering a few ecosystems, as you mentioned. So we're covering NPM, PyPy, Go, and Docker. So when you want to implement a package within your code base, but you're not sure if this package is secure, so what you can do is actually have a look, just type the name of the package. So let's take the example with React for NPM. And here we have, so we do have a few packages, but let's have a look at the first one. And you have what we call the package health score, and there's like 4 dimensions. So security, popularity, maintenance, and community. And this is giving you a better visibility on if the package is secured, so it's free from vulnerabilities. How popular is the package? As you can see, React is quite popular, obviously. That's a lot of downloads. The maintenance, and this is also a good indicator if there's people, contributors and maintainers working on this package actively. So you can see the last release and the last commits, and a little bit of information around the community who's behind the package. You have those metadata on that. So this is a good way to check a package before implementing it within your code base. So let's take an example quickly with Docker. So for example, nodes. Here again, they'll give you the number of stars and downloads. It's amazing. It's 4 billions. But also, if you're using Docker images, you can actually select the tag here, and you can compare with the latest tag. So just to see if there's any highs, medium, low within your the image that you've actually selected. So this is a good way to implement more security hygiene and security processes within your workflow. The other one that you mentioned, so you mentioned exploit DB, but I would like to mention about the Snyk vulnerability DB that we have, which is our open source vulnerability database, which we define as the most comprehensive, accurate, and timely database for open source vulnerabilities. And as you can see, we're covering a lot of languages and ecosystem. So if you have a particular package name or CV, you can actually look for it, or you can just browse and learn a bit more about those vulnerabilities. So depending if it's on application or operating systems, we do actually feed the database daily. We also have an internal security team which already disclosed a lot of vulnerabilities. This is amazing. But yeah, if you want to view all of the open source vulnerabilities, you can go there and learn a bit more what is going on lately in this. This is a good indicator as well. So yeah, there's like 2 tools that you can potentially use within the Big Fix. So just to remind you, the Big Fix is the month-long fixathon that we're doing here at Snyk. We're doing this yearly. So this year is happening. It started last week, but it's going up until March 14th. So you do still have time to fix security vulnerabilities within your open source projects, or your just your pet projects, or if you just want to fix your vulnerabilities. This is a great time to do so, to scan your projects, fix vulnerabilities, and get a limited edition t-shirt. And if you're really good at fixing vulnerabilities, you can get the chance to earn a VR headset, a wireless speaker, or an Arduino starter kit. This the leaderboard if you're really feeling competitive. But most of all, this is a fun activity. This is to make our code base, our projects, a little bit more secure than it was yesterday. So yeah, let's all do this together and make our projects a little bit more secure. Don't you think, Vandana?
I totally love it. Absolutely. I think this is a fun way to secure ourselves and help securing ourselves. And you are at the right place, because I was just about to talk about our
We need
friend.
to talk about this. Yeah,
Oh, yes,
this is really, this is
absolutely.
gold. Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about the DevSecCon community. So trust me, here when we talk about DevSecOn, we don't talk about Snyk. We talk about the wonderful discussions, DevSecOps, DevOps, everything about security, supply chain, and whatnot. There's a secure developer podcast that's there, and there's a beautiful community which is there. And we also have chapters around the world. We do have in India as well, one of the chapter leaders. So yes, and we have Sonia in London, and we have people around the world. So we would love you to join that. Another thing is that we do really cool discussions on Discord. So you can actually join the Discord community. We've put in the link in the chat section as well. So on this Discord, we talk about Snyk. We talk about, no, we don't talk about Snyk, but we talk about DevSecOn chapters. If you're in any part of the world listening to us, you can join the chapters that are there. And generally, the meets are online, but there are now offline meets as well, especially for Big Fix, I realized. And we do have a specific section for the Big Fix where people are fixing the bugs, we're sharing information, they're sharing the achievements, or if there are any issues that are there. It's not just about to share achievement, but if there are any issues that you're facing. So let's make the internet more secure. What do you think, Sonia?
Yeah, obviously, this is what we want. And also, if you don't want to talk about security, but if you want to talk about patch, you can also on Discord.
Oh yeah.
It's really friendly community. So, one last thing before we close, and we will put another announcement for tomorrow, because this is the next episode. Don't forget to go on our Snyk channel and subscribe for any all of the great content that we have there. As you can see, there's a lot that we have in the pipeline for the Big Fix. So we do have with Vandana 3 more episodes. This is great, 3 more episodes. But we also have things that talks around the attack surface, depending on your language. So we're doing JavaScript and the Java flavor. We're going to have Vandana doing This Week in VolDB in early March as well. We're going to have our good friend Gerald and a Snyk ambassador, Casey, who's doing I'm a Noob, Help Me Fix, and we're going to talk about the Big Fix entirely on this one and how to fix vulnerabilities. But as you can see, there's a lot of really great series. There's also a day in the life of a CISO. There's a lot of interesting playlists that you can have a look at. So yeah, just subscribe to the Snyk YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about security, that's the place to be. Discuss on Discord and watch videos on YouTube.
All
What do you think,
right.
Vandana?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, thanks for putting the next
Totally.
session. Yeah, for tomorrow. Yeah.
So we've put in the link for the next session and what the next session would be about. We would be talking about cryptography and outdated components. Trust me, it's going to be so much fun. We have so many stories to tell from our experiences, from the things that we have learned from all of you. And yes, please, please, please do post your questions, do post your feedback. We would love to hear how we can improve, what things we can add, and what went well. Like, everyone loves appreciation. So please do share. And yes, the interesting bit is that we want you to share it with your friends who want to learn about OWASP Top 10, especially the people who are gearing up for security or who want to move to security, want to pivot to security. There are so many developers who want to understand more about security. This is the place. It's not because we are doing it, but it's something which is very, very important, and we want everyone to know about it. So thank you so much for joining today. We're really, really glad to have this wonderful audience, and I can see some really good conversations sniffing through. What do you think, Sonia?
Yeah, it was an amazing one. It's really interesting to learn a bit more about those vulnerabilities, and it's always good to know more about OWASP Top 10. Just one quick thing: OWASP Top 10 is just the starting point of your journey in security. So if you're curious, just go and have a look at the other great documentation that OWASP is providing as well. But this is a really good starting point that we're providing this week. We're showcasing and highlighting those specific 10 vulnerabilities, but not stop there. Just be curious and learn more about those the other vulnerabilities out in the wild.
Yeah, and we are not going to spare you. Now we're talking about a vast top 10, but in the upcoming few weeks, few months, there's so much more that we're going to both bring on to the table. So, yes, for that, you need to subscribe to the channel so that you get as much as information that you can get from it. Let's start there. All right, so it's time to say adieu, and we would see you in the next episode. Meanwhile, you just subscribe to the channel and get to know more. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and we're gonna come back tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.
See you tomorrow, all.
See you tomorrow.